Welcome to NIOS. Today, in this session, we will learn about architecture in ancient India. When you go through the cities like Delhi, Agra, Jaipur, Mumbai, and Calcutta, etc., you find many beautiful buildings. Some are monuments, palaces, temples, churches, mosques, and memorials. Many of them had their foundation before Christ, and many after the coming of Christ. Many generations have been a part of this architecture, which stands mighty and lofty, reminding us of that glorious past which has been ours. This is because art and architecture forms an important part of Indian culture. Many distinctive features that we find in the architecture today developed throughout the long period of Indian history. The earliest and most remarkable evidence of Indian architecture is found in the cities of Harappan civilization, which boast of a unique town planning. In the past, Harappan period architectural styles have been classified as Hindu, Buddhist, and Jain. The medieval period saw the synthesis of Persian and indigenous styles of architecture. Thereafter, the colonial period brought the influence of Western architectural forms to India. Learners, you should remember that Indian architecture evolved in various ages in different parts and regions of the country. Apart from these natural and obvious evolutions from the prehistoric and historic periods, evolution of Indian architecture was generally affected by many great and important historic developments. Naturally, the emergence and decay of great empires and dynasties in the subcontinent, each in their way, influenced the growth and shaped the evolution of Indian architecture. External influences have also shaped the nature of Indian architecture, and so has the influence of different regions of the country. Let us have a look at the process of evolution of Indian architecture. Learners, now we will discuss about Harappan art. The excavations at Harappa and Mohenjo-daro and several other sites of the Indus Valley civilization revealed the existence of a very modern urban civilization with expert town planning and engineering skills. The very advanced drainage system, along with well planned roads and houses, show that a sophisticated and highly evolved culture existed in India before the coming of Aryans. The sites of the Indus Valley Civilization were excavated under the Archaeological Survey of India established by the British. The Harappan people had constructed mainly three types of buildings. Number 1, dwelling houses. Number 2, pillared halls. Number 3, public baths. The most important features of Harappan architecture are their superior town planning skills and cities that have been built on a clear geometric pattern or grid layout. Roads cut each other at right angles and were very well laid out. As the Indus Valley settlements were located on the banks of the river, they were often destroyed by major floods. In spite of this calamity, the Indus Valley people built fresh settlements on the same sites. Thus, layers upon layers of settlements and buildings were found during the excavation. The decline and final destruction of the Indus Valley civilization sometime around the second millennium BC remains a mystery to this day. The Hadappans had the knowledge and skill of sculpting and craft. The world's first bronze sculpture of a dancing girl has been found in Mohenjo-daro. A terracotta figure of a male in a yogic posture has also been excavated. Beautiful personal ornaments, soft stone seals with a pictorial script, and images of humped bulls, Pashupati, unicorn have also been excavated. The Vedic Aryans who came next lived in houses built of wood, bamboo and reeds. The Aryan culture was largely a rural one, and thus one finds few examples of grand buildings. This was because Aryan used perishable material like wood for the construction of royal palaces, which have been completely destroyed over time. The most important feature of the Vedic period was the making of fire altars. which soon became an important and integral part of the social and religious life of the people even today. Emergence of Buddhism and Jainism helped in the development of early architectural style. The Buddhist stupas were built at places where Buddha's remains were preserved and at the major sites where important events in Buddha's life took place. Stupas were built of huge mounds of mud enclosed in carefully burnt small standard bricks. One was built at his birthplace Lumbini. The second at Gaya, where he attained enlightenment under the Bodhi tree. The third at Sarnath, where he gave his first sermon, and the fourth at Kushinagar, where he passed away, attaining Mahaparinirvana at the age of 80. From now on, religion began to influence architecture. While Buddhists and Jains began to build stupas, viharas and chaityas, the first temple building activity started during the Gupta rule. Now, we will discuss about early historic architecture in India. An important phase of Indian architecture began with the Mauryan period. The material prosperity of the Mauryans and a new religious consciousness led to achievements in all fields. The Greek ambassador of Seleucus, Seleucus Nicator, Nikator, who visited the Mauryan court, described Chandragupta Maurya's palace as an excellent architectural achievement. It was a large palace carved out of wood. In the Mauryan period, which is 322 to 182 BC, especially under Ashoka, architecture saw a great advancement. Mauryan art and architecture depicted the influence of Persians and Greeks. During the reign of Ashoka, many monolithic stone pillars were erected on which teachings of Dhamma were inscribed. The stupas of Sanchi and Sarnath are symbols of achievement of Mauryan architecture. The gateways of the Sanchi stupa with the beautiful sculpture depicting scenes from Jataka stories are specimens of the skill and aesthetic sense of artisans. The blending of Greek and Indian art led to the development of Gandhara art, which developed later. The other schools of art and architecture were the indigenous Mathura school and Amravati schools. The Amravati school developed under the patronage of the Satavahanas of the Andhra region. A great stupa was built at Amravati in the lower Godavari region. The walls of the stupa are adorned with bas relief. Had carved medallion and decorative panels. Naga Arjun Konda is another place that is famous for Buddhist architecture. The Gupta period marks the beginning of the construction of the free-standing Hindu temples. An example of this is the temple at Diogarh, which is in Jhansi district, which had a central shrine or Garbhagriha, where the image of the deity was placed. Another temple at in Kanpur district is the fine examples of this period. Cave architecture. The development of cave architecture is another unique feature and marks an important phase in the history of Indian architecture. More than 1,000 caves have been excavated between 2nd century BC and 10th century AD. Famous among these were Ajanta and Ellora caves of Maharashtra and Udayagiri cave of Odisha. These caves hold Buddhist viharas, chaityas, as well as mandaps and pillared Pillared temples of Hindu gods and goddesses. Rock cut temples. The earliest rock cut temples were excavated in Western Deccan in the early years of the Christian era. The Chaitya at Karle with fine high halls and polished decorative wall is a remarkable example of rock cut architecture. The Kailash temple at Ellora, built by the Rashtrakutas, and Ratha temples of Mahabalipuram, built by the Pallavas, are other examples of rock cut temples. Most probably, the stability and permanence of rocks attracted the patrons of art and builders who decorated these temples with beautiful sculptures. Freestanding temples. The temple building activities that began during the Gupta rule continued to flourish in later periods. In southern India, the Pallavas, Cholas, Pandyas, Hoysalas and later the rulers of the Vijayanagara kingdom were great builders of temples. The Pallava rulers built the Shore temple at Mahabalipuram. Pallavas also built other structural temples like Kailashnath temple and Vaikuntha Perumal temples at Kanchipuram. The Cholas built many temples, most famous being the Brihadeshwara. Temple at Kanchipuram. The Cholas built many temples, most famous being the Brihadeshwara temple at Tanjore. The Cholas developed a typical style of temple architecture of South India called the Dravida style. In North and Eastern India, magnificent temples were also constructed, and the style followed by them is referred to as the Nagara style. Odisha has some of the most beautiful temples such as Lingaraja temple built by the Ganga rulers, and the Mukteshwara temple at Bhubaneswar, and the Jagannath temple at Puri. The temple is dedicated to Surya, the sun god, and has been designed as a 12-wheeled chariot. The temple complex at Khajuraho was built by Chandela rulers between the 10th and the 11th century in the Bundelkhand region of Madhya Pradesh. Most important among them is the Kandariya Mahadev temple. Mount Abu in Rajasthan is known for the Dilwara temple dedicated to Jain Tirthankars. Tirthankars. These were built in pure white marble and adorned with exquisite sculpture. These were built under the patronage of Solanki rulers. Somnath temple at Gujarat, Vishwanath temple at Banaras, Govinda temple at Mathura, and Architecture Kamakhya temple at Guwahati, Shankaracharya temple at Kashmir, and the Kali temple at Kalighat of Kolkata are some other important temples which bear testimony to temple building activity of the Indian subcontinent. Dear learners, in this video we learned about Architecture in ancient India. I hope you understood it well. If you have any query, then you can send email at signlanguage@nios.ac.in. For more information, you can visit website www.nios.ac.in. Thank you.